What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my end of the year list. Now it is time to talk about my overall worst movies of 2019. If you've missed it, I've already given my top 5 worst horror films of 2019. Some of those films will be on this list, but how bad are they in comparison to some of the other genres you have to find out? And I also have my best 5 horror films of 2019. Keep your eyes peeled, hit that subscribe button as well, because after this video, through the rest of this week, you're gonna have my top 10 most disappointing, top 10 most surprising, which is something that I usually don't do, it's a new one this year, and my top 10 best, of course, which I have quite a few honorable mentions for, so that's gonna be a lengthy video, and eventually working my way up to maybe this weekend, maybe next week, my top movies of the decade. I don't know if it's going to be 10, 20, 25. There's so many, so depends on how much I want to do, how much I'm able to scale it back on the list. But that's not why we're here. We're here to talk about the worst movies of 2019. And 2019 was kind of a rough movie for film, I gotta be honest with you. There were some great films, like obviously I have a lot of honorable mentions, so there's a lot of movies that I loved, but this was a big year of disappointment for a lot of films for me, to where I had high expectations for them and just walked out not liking them. You'll see a lot of those in my disappointing list. But as far as the worst, kicking it off with number 10, and this is a spot that I really struggled with, because there was a film that I really did not enjoy that was hard locked at my number 10, and then I watched another film that I had heard rumblings about and really did not enjoy that one either, and I just struggled about which one made the list. I wasn't gonna do one honorable mention, so those of you that love Midsummer, you can go ahead and praise the pagan gods, because it barely, narrowly escaped my 10 worst of the year, because my number 10 is The Nightingale. If you have not heard of this film, this is the newest film by the director that did The Babadook, which I was a big fan of. It's a very divisive movie, but The Nightingale essentially is a very old-time movie, to where you have, it's similar to The Lighthouse, where they go for the old school style of filmmaking, and I think they even had a certain aspect ratio to it as well, where it was more square. But it tells the story of this woman who gets beaten and raped multiple times, and her family gets murdered by these assholes, and she has to go off on this adventure to hunt down these assholes and get her revenge. It's basically a very classy version of I Spit on Your Grave. Now, let me say this right off the bat. This is a very well-made film. It's a very well-directed film. It's shot very well. The performances are great. I'm not saying that it's on this list because the movie is shit. If it helps you, consider this my least favorite movies of the year. Sometimes people get those wires crossed. I had a lot of those in my top 5 worst. What are you talking about, The Lighthouse? The Nightingale is a movie that I did not enjoy whatsoever, and I will never watch again, because it's so in your face with how brutal and violent the crimes against this woman are, to where in the first 8 minutes of the film, first 10 minutes of the film maybe, she's raped twice. She has her husband shot in the face, or shot in the throat right in front of her. There is an infant involved in a scene. And from the moment these guys walk into the room where this baby is in, you know what's gonna happen. And you're sitting there, and the entire time this scene is going on for like a good 5 minutes, where horrible things are happening, you're just going, please don't do what I think you're gonna do. Please don't do what I think you're gonna do, please. And they do it. And from that point on, the movie is basically, it's beyond saving for me, because it's just a movie that I'm not liking what I'm seeing. I'm not enjoying the storyline. I know you're not supposed to enjoy it to a certain degree, but I'm not even on board for the story, because it's just, I don't want to see that. And then if you get into the rest of the film, it's very long and drawn out, over and over, scenes of both the villains walking through the woods, bitching at each other, just further establishing how horrible these people are, and scenes with her and this guy that she has to partner up with to trek through the woods and the swamps, just over and over, just walking. And then when you finally get to the scenes when she's supposed to get her revenge, which is the only saving grace in movies like this, like I Spit on Your Grave, like Last House on the Left, where you get to see the evil get the pain that they deserve. The movie doesn't even really go that far with that, and it kind of almost cops out to a certain degree in the third act, so that you don't even really get that satisfaction from it. So this is a movie that I will understand 100% if artistically you love what this woman was doing, but it's a movie that I just did not enjoy at all. And if I was stacked right next to each other with Midsummer and this, which I probably enjoyed about the same level, I will happily rewatch Midsommar a dozen times before I ever rewatch The Nightingale, so it just barely edged it out for number 10 on my worst films of 2019. Number 9 is going to be The Curse of La Llorona. This is one of the movies that came out this past year that it was part of the Conjuring universe. They didn't even advertise it as part of that universe. You kind of heard rumblings of it after people had seen the movie, which was a weird choice, but nonetheless, it's a very bland movie. It's competent enough, but it's just the same shit that we've seen over and over and over again in horror and over and over and over again in this universe, to the point where it's one of the least interesting installments in this franchise because it's just more of the same. Not a whole lot else to say beyond that. The performances are okay, the effects are okay, but it's jump scares, it's predictable as all hell, and it's not scary. So you're gonna walk into it, you're gonna be monotone the entire time you're watching it, and you're gonna walk out and go, all right, what's next, Conjuring universe? Now at number 8, we got a movie that nobody saw and nobody acknowledged, but I got bored enough one night to check it out, and that is The Gallows Act 2. Now the first film came out around that time when he had a lot of found footage movies that were mostly garbage, had some bullshit concept to half-ass put a villain in there, and then it's just a bunch of typical found footage, paranormal activity-esque scares until the final act. Now I didn't think The Gallows was as bad as a lot of people made it out to be, but it was certainly bad. The Gallows Act 2, while being marginally better than the first film, and this one's not even really that much found footage, it's much more live action, it's still not a good film. You have the hangman is like the villain that's not a very interesting or scary villain. It does some interesting things with the lore of the gallows, of the play, and of his character, but beyond that, you don't really care about the characters. The movie doesn't have anything scary or new or fresh in store for you. It's wash, rinse, repeat of a billion movies that you've seen over and over again, that comes to a mostly satisfying little twist at the end that I mildly enjoyed enough to be like, okay, I don't hate myself for watching that, but certainly merits ending up on this list at number 8. Number 7 is Greta. Talk about wasted potential. This was a movie that everybody trashed whenever it first came out, and then I had one or two friends tell me that it was actually better than a lot of people thought it was going to be, and I thought the trailers looked pretty good, so I checked it out. And it's good for maybe the first half, and then it just goes off the rails. It's got an interesting concept. You have two really good performers doing both the antagonist and the protagonist, and it's a little cat and mouse game that I enjoyed until it got to the point that it just started to get stupid, and it started to get stretching believability, and it started to get to the point where it was just kind of betraying all of the believability and the grounded sense of the movie, and it ended in a note where I'm just kind of like, okay, I don't even care. So Greta, it was a good enough attempt for the first half of the movie, and it's almost like somebody else came in the second half and just made a completely different movie and went in their own weird direction. Didn't enjoy this one at all. Number 7 is Greta. Number 6, probably the weirdest movie on this list, and that is Serenity. This is a movie that I had no idea what the hell it was, but you look at the cover and you got Anne Hathaway and you have Matthew McConaughey. Like, you would swear this is almost a movie that was going for an Oscar just with those two put together alone. You even have Jason Clarke in here, who's really good, but it's a movie that, I don't even know if I should spoil it or not, but it's a movie where it starts off as like this almost erotic thriller where Anne Hathaway is Matthew McConaughey's ex-wife, and her current husband, Jason Clarke, is abusive and a drunk, and he's gonna, eventually hurt her or Matthew McConaughey's son, and they come up with this plot to murder him, basically. And while the movie is focused on that, it's not too bad. It's intriguing enough, you like the performances enough, you like the characters enough to where you want to see where this is gonna play out, because you know it's gonna go bad at some point, but you don't realize where it's gonna go bad. And that's when the movie reveals what's actually going on, you spend the next half an hour just going, what the fuck am I watching? And it's a movie where I can't spoil it. I can't spoil it because it's almost a bad movie that you have to experience to realize how fucking ridiculous the story direction they went with is. So if you have a spare 90 minutes that you genuinely don't care if you waste them, spend it on Serenity, because it has to be seen to be believed. Number 5 is a movie that I had at least a half a dozen people scream at me, why was this not in your top 5 worst horror films of 2019? Did you not see it? Did you forget about it? Did you actually like this thing? No, I didn't like it. Yes, I did see it, but for whatever reason, which kind of goes into some of the criticisms of the movie, I just didn't associate it as a horror film. Number 5 is Hellboy. Wow. This is a movie series that I've never really been a big fan of. Like, I get okay enjoyment out of the first Hellboy. I never saw the second one, but I was never on the Hellboy train. And you get this one where they were hyping it up, it's gonna be grittier and gorier and more to the comic, and then you're gonna have, you know, David Harbour come in, who's kind of on a little bit of a high from Stranger Things, and they didn't want to give the budget that Guillermo del Toro wanted to do for the third film, and they just wanted to reboot it and do this one. And I was really intrigued until that first trailer, and I was like, what is this weird comedy thing going on? And then they had another trailer that was like total tonal shift, and it was all darkness and demons and hellfire, and I'm like, what the fuck is this movie? Everybody bitched about it, everybody hated it. I didn't bother seeing it in theaters. Saw it at home because I figured people have said it's so bad that I was gonna walk in and have such low expectations that I might end up enjoying it. And while I didn't hate it on the level that everybody else did, I certainly didn't enjoy it. Actually, the last 5 minutes of the film, like the little tail end teaser of what was gonna come for the second movie, was the best part of the movie, in my opinion. But this movie has so many combating ideas, so many combating tones, to the point where you have high fantasy, you have a little bit of horror, you have mostly comedy, and all this other shit that the movie just feels like one of those forced it kind of situations where it feels like there was so many cooks in the kitchen and they had 3-4 different movies and they had to kind of chop it together and make this weird Frankenstein thing, and Hellboy just doesn't work. So I didn't see it as a horror film. If you want to throw it in my top 5 and say it's a horror film, then all you Midsommar fans can just rejoice, because that negates that off the list too. This would be somewhere in what, number 3 or something, but yeah, just didn't see it as a horror film. But anyway, it is bad enough to make my worst of the year list at number 5. Number 4 was a movie that I almost forgot about when doing this list. There was a version of this top 10 worst that did not have this movie on it. And then I saw a poster and went, oh, you sneaky fuck, you were not getting away from me. You were going on this list where you deserve. Number 4 is Dumbo. Yes, Dumbo. This movie was not only one of the worst movies that I saw this year, but, which might be kind of unfair for the placement on the list, was by far the most miserable viewing experience that I've had all year, which is not this movie's fault, but I'm throwing blame on you anyway, Dumbo, because you still sucked. Dumbo is a movie that I did not really care to see. The trailers looked okay. I'm not really in love with the original Dumbo. It wasn't one of the ones that I grew up watching a lot as a kid. Not a fan of Tim Burton. So all those things added together, I was like, if I never see this, I'm fine. Went to the drive-in one night with my family because they had Dumbo playing and they had Avengers Endgame playing, which I had already seen, but I was more than happy to see again. And so it was gonna be this nice little double feature. I had it planned out. We're gonna see Dumbo, Riley and the kids will probably fall asleep, or at least Riley will, and then we can watch Avengers Endgame, and it's gonna be awesome. My God, was I wrong, because it was just, everything wrong that can go with the drive-in experience went wrong during this experience. But beyond that, as far as the movie does not have interesting characters. The movie is style over substance, like most of Tim Burton's films, and it's just the same shit over and over. Once you get through the 30-minute like build up to actually seeing Dumbo and where he can fly, and everybody's like, oh my God, the rest of the movie is just these kids, come on Dumbo, fly, show them you can fly. And I'm like, I don't fucking care. This movie was just miserable to sit through, to the point where like during the last 15 minutes of the movie, I was just done. I held my hand over my eyes and just kind of laid back and tried to even, I couldn't go to sleep because I was too mad to sleep, but I was just like, I don't want to experience any more senses than hearing that I can't control. So just when this movie's fucking over, just tell me that it's over. The movie ended and I was so miserable from that experience that I left the drive-in and foregoed watching Avengers Endgame a second time. That's how bad Dumbo is. Number 4. Number 3, oh man, let me dodge those bullets again. The Lighthouse. Yes, if you have not seen my top 5 worst horror films of 2019, The Lighthouse was on that list, and I gave somewhat of a defense of like, look, this is where I'm coming from, try to understand where I'm coming from, and of course, that doesn't do anything, because it never does anything, because you still get the same fucking pretentious, uppity, self-serving dickwads that go in the comment section who's like, what, your opinion is just so off, bro, like this is masterful, and like this just loses credibility for you as a critic, and now I'm not even a fan anymore. Bye. Don't watch anymore. I don't know what to tell you. For everybody else that's a sound fucking human being and actually has enough security in their own opinion to understand other people's opinions, hear me out on The Lighthouse. This is the same kind of defense that I will give for like The Nightingale and like for Midsommar had it been on this list. Technically speaking, this is a very well-made film. It's well directed, it's well put together, it's interesting, it's artistic, I get all of that, but I did not enjoy it at all. So If it helps to go from top 10 worst to top 10 least favorite, then just put your little fucking blinders on and see it as that. I did not enjoy this movie at all. This is not the type of movie for me. I can appreciate if you love it. I did not understand that. The Lighthouse is a movie that is all style and all artistic and all like metaphors and Greek mythology and stuff like that. I just didn't enjoy it. I watched this movie and there was not a single part of it where I was like, I'm digging this. I just watched it and I went, why is he masturbating again? What is up with this mermaid? Oh, she's got a vagina. They're gonna show it. Oh, that's cool. Oh, now Willem Dafoe's naked. Now he's touching his face and his eyes are glowing. Oh, now they're both naked. Oh, now one of them's dead. Oh, wow, okay. I don't know what that ending means. Cool, credits, now I can go on with my life. You could say I didn't get it. You could say I don't have the artistic vision. I don't have that type of movie taste to understand something that's just hierarchy of this, but I just did not enjoy the movie, and I will never watch it again. And it's one of the few movies this year that I have had absolutely no piece of it, aside from the easy picks of, yeah, the performances were great, yeah, the dude holding the camera did a good job, yeah, there's obviously some artistic vision here. Aside from those easy things, there's nothing that I can say, this spoke to me. The Lighthouse, number 3. Now we're on to the top 2. And my number 2 is a movie that for a long time, well, not a long time, but since I saw it was easily my number 1 of the year. And I thought it was gonna stay there, and I was kind of cool with it being number 1 because this would be the first year that I had a number 1 worst movie of 2019, or worst movie of the year, that I could say that I enjoyed for how bad that it was, instead of just being a movie that I just piss on and shit on for, 2 minutes or however long I summarize these movies. But there was one that was worse. So number 2 got knocked down from number 1, and that is The Fanatic. Whoa, The Fanatic. This is a movie that for the longest time I've seen like pictures of John Travolta and his hair, and just the concept of we have Fred Durst writing and directing a thriller starring John Travolta with that hair. And I had to see this. I knew it was gonna be garbage. This had maybe a 0.0001% chance of being good, but I had to see it. I had to experience this. And this movie is an experience. This is like, maybe not quite on the level of The Room, but it's one of those movies where you can enjoy it with some friends, with some sick sense of humor, because of how bad and how ill-conceived and just how disastrous this movie is from start to finish, with almost every single artistic choice that was made by both Travolta and Durst. And it's wild that this movie exists. So I love it and I hate it in equal amounts. It's a garbage movie, it tells a terrible story, and it just does so many things wrong, but it's so ridiculous that I enjoyed every minute that I watched it. And it's a movie that I probably will rewatch just for my own sick amusement. But this is a movie that needs to be experienced. So much like Serenity, if you have some time left over and a couple of bucks left over, rent it on Amazon Prime or Redbox or wherever you can find it, and experience this as well, because number 2 is The Fanatic. Now I gotta poop. If you haven't seen the movie, you won't get that joke. No, I didn't actually just take a shit break, for those of you that haven't seen it. I don't want those comments. Number 1, Black Christmas. Fuck this movie. Black Christmas is a movie that when I saw the announcement of it, and I saw how they were fast tracking it, and I saw the concept that the director and the writer were talking about for this film, I knew that it was not going to be for me. I knew that I was not going to enjoy it, but I did not know how horrendous this movie actually was going to be. I went to see it because one, I'm a more horror-focused channel and I wanted to have a review. I thought it would be fun to shit on this movie, and I did not realize how horrendous this movie was. I didn't realize how much ammo this movie was actually going to give me for my review, because this is garbage from start to finish. We're not even gonna talk about the agenda shit yet. We'll just talk about as a movie. This is a really, really poor attempt of taking the name Black Christmas and doing something with it that has nothing to do with Black Christmas. You have a collection of characters that you don't give a shit about. Even the main character, played by Imogen Poots, the weakest that I've ever seen her, and the weakest character that I've ever seen her portray. The gore and the kills get hacked down to nothing because they had to go for a PG-13 rating. The villains are obvious. If you haven't seen the trailer, you can still put the movie together in the first 15 minutes, but if you have seen the trailer, you've seen the movie. Now you get into the agenda shit, And most movies that have actual competent creators and artists behind the camera and behind the pen know how to use nuance and creativity to weave their story and their agenda and their ideas and everything like that into the story and have it be subtext, have it be like little goodie bags that the viewer can pick out with their viewing experience, maybe upon rewatch, and just have something to discuss. This movie does the opposite of that. This movie is agenda wrapped in a thin little Christmas packaging of a movie, and it just beats you over the fucking head with a sledgehammer from the opening frame to the end of the movie, to the point where not only me, my demographic, straight white male, have nothing to enjoy about this movie and no reason to see it, but even all of the females that they're going for, I didn't see a single person in my comment section that said that they actually liked this movie or tried to defend it or tried to offer a different perspective. That has never happened before. I have never shit on a movie and had 100% of the viewer base say, I agree. That's how bad this movie is. Number 1, Black Christmas. So that's my list, guys. Those are my worst films of 2019, and I'm glad that I can get that video out of the way, and now I can start talking about more positive experiences with my films in 2019. So please, like and share this video. Hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed this and you want to stick around for all of those videos. Be sure to check out my top 5 best and worst horror films of 2019 if you've not already seen those. I've got an end of the year playlist I'll stick up here somewhere. So click that, please. If you guys want to check out some social media links, check the video description below, and you will have my Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Also my Patreon page, a good way to get back to this channel and help this channel grow while getting cool exclusive content for your eyes only if you decide to become a patron. Scroll just below that, you'll see my Teespring store, all my merchandise. You can check that out as well. A lot of cool stuff designed by my buddy Woody Bowen. And as always, if you guys want to check out some more of my videos, you can check those out by clicking right over here.